iso ramping for your hamstring. So I'm going to be showing you on the bicep how to do iso ramping before I get onto the hamstring so you can see it a little bit easier. So we're going to be using this technique to start getting access to tissue that you can't currently use. So iso ramping is a pretty simple process. So as I just show you my bicep here, as I push down, I can push in with my thumb, my finger, whatever. As I push in here in my finger, or my finger in my muscle, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use those muscle fibers just to contract them to push my finger back out. So I'll just show you that again a little bit closer. So just push my finger in and then push it back out. So what we'll be doing this for is you'll have tissue where you go and you try to push it out and you just can't feel it and you can't use it and you can't access that tissue. That's what this exercise is for. So we'll be finding the tissue that you can't use, you'll push your finger in there and then you'll just push it out. Now, I'll get to showing you how to do it in your hamstring in a second, but just imagine if I do this and I just kind of can't use that tissue. Now I can do a couple of things here. One is I can just keep trying until I get it, or I can sort of just move a little bit away from it and try there, like can I get anything there? Try here, can I get some, oh, okay, I can get it there. So you kind of do a few reps here, feel that, and then sort of as you start moving closer until you can start getting access to that tissue. Basically what's happened is if you've damaged some tissue, you've got an injury or something like that, what'll happen is you've got sort of a neural net, you've got nodes here in your nervous system, all these tissues that you're trying to access here have like a corresponding node effectively in the spine. So what happens is as this gets injured, this corresponding node turns down so that you don't use this injured tissue, which is a safety mechanism for your body. But what happens is as the tissue gets better, the node doesn't just come back on by itself. So we're doing this to turn that back on. So another way that you can go about this is if I go here and you're like, oh, I just can't feel anything. What you can do is go over to the other one and go and do this a few times and feel like, you're like, oh, okay, I know, right? And pay attention. What does this feel like? What does this feel? No, okay. So now I'm just going to try to recreate that sensation over here because you're sort of teaching your nervous system how to do it. And this is basically what we're doing. Now, if you've actually got actual torn tissue here, then you don't want to be going right in where the tear is. But if that's the case, I will have been speaking to you directly about that. So if this is the case, and you're just finding this on YouTube or whatever, and you've actually got a tear here, don't just go hard. Obviously, I'll tell you about exactly how to approach it if there's definitely torn tissue here. But now to the hamstring. Okay, so for your hamstring, I actually like to do it in this position. So I'm either seated down here, I've got about a 90-degree bend here in my knee, and I'll get my fingers underneath here and do it in this sort of setup. There's another way that I like to do it, which is seated on a bench, which I'll show you in a second. What I'm going to do now is just lay back to actually give you a bit more of a sort of a picture of how to do it. So bear with me, I'm about to show you my butt. I have pants on. So basically, I'll use me actually as an example. I hurt my LCL, tore my LCL at jiu-jitsu stuff 9 months ago, whatever it was. I found that some of this tissue I just couldn't work. So if you've had sort of knee injuries, what'll happen is your body will turn a lot of these hamstring tissues off so that you're not putting too much force on a damaged knee, damaged tissue in your knee. So what we're basically trying to do here is you're literally just going to do what we did with the bicep and find spots that you can't do. So if I put my finger in here and I just try to contract the tissue out, can I push my finger out? I don't care that I'm using other stuff as well. That's fine. You're not going to be able to just use this and not that. So as long as you can sort of push it out, you're fine. So push in, push out. So what I found personally for me around this sort of whole section here, I just could not, as I can see now, I can actually push that out. I just couldn't. I just had no access, no feeling, no sensation. It's a very strange sort of thing. So it was through here, there, and then even calf around the same sort of corresponding section, so around here. So if you're doing this with your hamstring, also do it with that sort of top calf area as well. So basically what you're doing is just going to push in So can I push that can I push my finger out just with the force of that? If you can't, then that's where you're doing it. So pushing out here. So you just find the spots. Now, you might have a lot of spots, and that's fine. We're going to work on all of them. So all I'm going to do is basically sit here once again, and I'm just going to put my finger underneath, and I'm just going to push out. Your program will tell you what to do, but you're probably just going to be doing this, and you're going to push out, and you're going to try and hold it out for about 10 seconds. And that's sort of one rep. You'll probably find once you start getting access to stuff, you'll only be able to do it for like a couple of seconds. It'll feel really weird. Same thing as I did with my bicep. Like if I can't feel anything here, you've got an option just to move out, find the closest section that you can feel, start doing that, and then move in, which is one way to do it. The other one is literally, if I put my hand here, I'm like, I can't find that spot, I just can't feel it, I can't do it. Then I just do it in exactly the same spot on the other leg. And like, I'll do this one a few times. I'm like, okay, I know what I'm trying to feel here. And now I'll come over here and just try and do that. And like, just trying to mimic the sensation. What you might find is you're better off doing it a few times here and then doing it there. What you might find is actually doing it and then holding it contracted as you're trying to do this one. I think that the difference between those two is just going to be an individual thing. For me, if I just push this out and then do that one, that for me was probably the most helpful. So you're literally doing this just to get access to some tissue. That's it. I'll just show you the other setup that I like. So the other setup is exactly the same. I'm just actually seated instead of on the floor. This once again is a different sensation. So I do it here, same thing. I just try and push. Can I feel that tissue being pushed out? If I can, great, move around, boom. If I can't, then I'm going to come over here and use this as a tool to say, okay, this is what it feels like, great. And then I'll get into here in my calves as well, because for me, that was a thing, and I want you to do the same thing, that whole sort of section. And I would highly recommend doing it like this, plus doing it on the floor. Even though it's very similar, they are actually a little bit different, and you want to be able to get access to those tissues in different positions as well. That's it. Enjoy.